Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Palestine, especially the Gaza Strip. During illegitimate state of Israel's occupation forces, over 500 days of genocidal war, completely devastated. According to the several reports, over 61,700 innocent Palestinians killed, including 48,270 confirmed and 14,222 Palestinians still missing in rubble. Unfortunate thing is that more than 111,000 Palestinians critically injured, and most of them killed and injured are the women and children. There are about 245,000 residential units or the buildings destroyed. 92% of the road infrastructure and educational institutions gone. And more than 84% of the hospitals and medical facilities are already devastated. But now, amidst the rubble and despair, glimmer of hope is emerging. That is because of the ongoing first phase of the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. An expected second phase for which the negotiations are going to be held. Qatar is very optimistic for this second phase. We'll also explore today the devastating US-Israel controversial, the Riviera Plan. It is controversial because US and Israel asked the Gaza residents to leave and they intend to seize it. There is a stark opposition and rightful opposition to this proposal, not only by the United Nations, but whole of the world, especially the Arab states. And there is a surprise shift within the US Senate as well on this issue. We'll also get through the crucial role of the Arab states, especially Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Jordan and Egypt, as they are very vocal for having an alternative plan. And what would be the alternative plan? And it is expected that this alternative plan would be for the reconstruction of Gaza as well as the West Bank. Also, the realization of the Palestinian statehood as well and the security. Now, on that front, particularly when we are talking about construction or the reconstruction, rehabilitation of Gaza and West Bank, United Nations, European Union and World Bank has estimated the staggering cost of $53.2 billion for the reconstruction. And for the first phase particularly, at least $20 billion required for first 3 years. And this reconstruction will take at least 10 years. And these are just the estimates. When the reconstruction starts, then we'll know that what would be the ultimate time frame. So there are lots of critical situations, and the humanitarian situation is still there because Palestinians are still without water, without shelter, without food and medicine and healthcare. Although there are convoys coming daily to the Gaza Strip, but still it's a huge population of more than 19 million. So when we are talking about this whole scenario, this is really alarming. United Nations time and again saying for action, because it is the time to take action for the favorable conditions for the Palestinians who are living in Gaza right now and even in West Bank. We will talk in detail, and to have for this discussion we have in our studios Mr. Hamza Amir Khalil. He is the international relations expert. Most welcome to you. Thank you very much, Hamza. And we have Ali Hamza, Assistant Research Associate and right now working at Islamabad Policy Research Institute, IPRI. Thank you very much, Ali, for being with us here. And online joining us, Dr. Saira Nawaz Abbasi. She is the Mid Eastern Affairs expert. Most welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us. My first question to you, Ali, what was actually expected happened in the form of Trump-Natanyahu's so-called the Riviera Plan to seize the Gaza Strip, and Trump goes ahead by saying that the Palestinians would have no right to return. Under his plan particularly, at this majority of the, or across the world, especially the United Nations and the Arab states, called it a dark vision and strongly opposed it, while during talks in Saudi Arabia, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that any deal on the future of war-torn Gaza must boost regional security. What it means actually?
When we see the chain of events as soon as Mr. Trump ascended into the White House, and even before that, we see a shift of policies, we see a shift of narratives. Mr. Trump, because he was dubbed as the one who will bring peace to the Middle East, bring peace to the world as a whole, he just insisted on the ceasefire, and he obviously enjoys the leverage on the Israeli politicians, particularly Benjamin Netanyahu. But as soon as he was in the White House, we see that he started to insist on another plan. That was the reconstruction plan of Gaza, but which involved the displacement of the people of Gaza. This highlights the ulterior motives he has, his business empire has, as Jared Kushner already has time and again, even at Howard a week or so before, he has just reiterated that he intends to build Gaza as a waterfront property where the filthy rich of the world can park their black money and they can enjoy the benefits of such a scenic beauty of this waterfront property. So Mr. Trump's insistence on a plan where he displaces the people of Gaza and builds it into a fortune for him and his business empire, it is thus a proof of his ulterior motives. But we see that people like Marco Rubio and even his envoy, Steve Witkoff, they have tried to tone down Trump's plan and Trump's narrative. Even Steve Witkoff told people that when Trump offers such a plan to the people of Gaza, he's actually trying to shake up the thinking of people to come up with better alternatives. So I think that even the policy making circles inside the United States, they have a lack of clarity about Trump's plan. Whether Trump means to take Gaza, how is he going to do that? Is he going to do that with boots on ground? And how will he be able to displace the people of Gaza?
Trump is always very unpredictable, and this is more than a wish rather than to be a policy really, because most of the United States senators, the congressmen of his party, even they are not agreed to it. Hamza, what about Israeli de facto Prime Minister Netanyahu threatened to open gates of hell in Gaza if all hostages not returned? Used the same tone as of the President Trump, and he said that he is committed to the US proposal to take over Gaza Strip and displace its residents. Israeli Defense Minister Katz announced to establish special army directorate for voluntary departure of the Gaza residents, and an initial proposal got ready. While the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Saudi Arabia and talked to it, he thinks that he is pushing that plan. So what do you think about that?
Well, basically these developments speak of the ambitious plans that Donald Trump and Netanyahu have for Gaza. And if their plans are not fulfilled, they have threatened to open gates of hell on people of Palestine. And from what I understand is that they are talking about using weapons that have never been used before. For instance, GBU-43B, the mother of all bombs, which was used back in 2017 in Afghanistan. Yes. So basically what I understand is that they are going to drop that bomb in an evacuated area where they will have credible intelligence that there is Hamas infrastructure, and they want to just get rid of all the infrastructure in one go. Possibly to ensure that Gaza is no longer a threat.
This is going to be very horrible, really.
Yeah, this will be a horrible, but they will evacuate the area first.
If that happens,
if that happens,
God forbid, that must have not to be happened over there. Okay. You're absolutely right. So, Dr. Saira, although US President Trump shaking the whole world when he repeatedly announced his plan to take over Gaza Strip and expel its under siege innocent residents, But recently, U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal called Trump's plan as a non-starter. Meanwhile, the Trump's long-term ally, Senator Lindsey Graham, said there was little appetite in Senate for America to take over Gaza in any way, shape, or form. Is it like that?
There is quite an ambiguity persist about Trump or U.S. Plan of taking over Gaza Strip. While Trump made controversial statements regarding Israel and Palestine, including, strongly and staunchly supporting the Israeli policies, but there is no official proposal or clear-cut policy which had been communicated or documented that what the Trump administration or the US is going to be doing in the Gaza Strip. And the remarks by the Senator Richard and the Lindsey Graham, these statements, they signify the challenges associated with such a plan which had been floated by the Trump administration, particularly the issue of governance, how and when and where the Trump administration is going to tackle the issue of governance in a so far-flung area. So the Graham statement that there is a little appetite for the Senate of the U.S. involvement in Gaza reflects the bipartisan reluctance to commit the American resources into the Palestinian area. And I would like to assert that this Trump approach of taking over Gaza is very colonial approach, which is not practically possible in this era of the 21st century. And we have seen that his proposal has been widely rejected by not only domestically but internationally, particularly European states and the Arab states. They have rejected the plan, and because it is going to set very grave precedent for the international order. So currently with clarity to foresee what Trump is going to do in Gaza is, I think, the Trump administration by themselves is very much not clear, as one of my colleagues has also pointed out.
So, Dr. Saira, what about the meeting between the U.S. President and the Jordanian King Abdullah, in which he completely rejected this plan of displacement and the settlement and an alternative homeland in Jordan or Egypt or in Saudi Arabia, because Netanyahu made the statement about Saudi Arabia. And during recent meetings with the U.S. delegation, King Abdullah once again reiterated that Arab states would present a plan that covers normalization. Normalization means that normalizing ties with Israel, self-determination for the Palestinians, the statehood, the regional defense arrangements and security. What you perceive out of this whole, if that tentative plan would be placed or tabled?
Well, the perception and the images that came from that meeting between the King Abdullah and Trump administration was quite, in which he was looking very disturbed and confused, because of course on the one side he had been threatened by the US president that there will be the cut of trade if he would not accept the proposal of the United States of America. So he had to play very diplomatically. On the one side, he kind of compensated by telling the Trump administration that, okay, we are going to take, I think, 2,000 children and we will take care of them. While on the other hand, very softly, he also pointed out that it is better to leave this in the hands of the Arab people to decide that what should be the future of the Palestinian based on the rights of self-determination. Now, Jordan and Egypt both are very much concerned about the displacement, because these are two key Arab states, the neighboring Arab states of the Palestine, which is going to pose a more threat to their own security, because we all know that a significant amount of Palestinian people are already residing inside the Jordan. Similarly, Egypt has also rejected the proposal of relocating the Palestinian in Sinai, again due to the security concerns and the risk of long-term regional instability. So we have seen that there is a strong opposition from both of the sides, and that shows that any unilateral action that would be taken by the Trump administration to alter the Gaza's demographics would face a lot of resistance. And these two states are very much concerned about their domestic and political risks.
Definitely, they have lots of domestic as well as the economic issues right now. Going through an economic crunch when it comes to Jordan or Egypt. You are absolutely right. Your point well taken, Ali. After complete rejection of the Trump's designs about the Gaza, what are the expectations of an alternative and a comprehensive plan regarding the Gaza's future, the reconstruction, the normalization, and an independent Palestinian state that is very important, particularly related to Saudi Arabia-led Arab Leaders Summit, most probably today, and which also, when we are talking about the Egypt's driven another special Arab League Summit in Cairo soon. Most of the people called it on 27th of this month, in February, or on 4th of March. Another OIC Extraordinary meeting is also planned by Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and that is going to be held in Jeddah and at the foreign ministers level. So how do you see these initiatives, and what would be the ultimate alternative plan for the Gazas? Because people are anxiously waiting for that.
We see that Arab leaders, they have been proposing an alternative plan after the complete rejection of Trump's proposal for displacement of the people of Gaza and rebuilding it. But even the speculations are few and far in between about what type of an alternative plan it could be. So I think that we'll have to wait for the exact details as soon as this first summit, which is happening today, it happens in Riyadh. The thing is that I think all this procedure of summits that the Arab leaders have started, it is more of a continuation of how Trump carries out diplomacy. So here, reading the lines is important, but reading between the lines is very important, because Trump's diplomacy has been very different from what we know about diplomatic niceties. So he comes up with an opening price, which actually creates the anchoring effect, and then he lets the contenders decide for the minimum he can achieve with a maximalist claim. He did the same in the case of Panama Canal. We know that when he announced that the United States was going to take over it and run it, he actually did not mean it. He just wanted to boot out China and keep in check the Chinese BRI in Panama and the South American nations. So I think he is doing a very similar thing with the people of Gaza and with the Arab leaders, that he is trying to come up with a maximalist plan, which is displacing people of Gaza and then rebuilding it, so that Arab leaders can come up with an alternative which is more or less acceptable to the United States.
Sarah is rightly pointing out that might be United States don't want to invest in reconstruction, and that is might be the thinking behind what the...
I'm exactly coming to that point, that what he wants, that there are two main requirements for the United States which it wants the Arab leaders to fulfill. First one is to pay for the reconstruction of Gaza. Second one is to manage Gaza administratively and politically with their boots on ground or whatever that intention might be. So he wants the Arab leaders to be fearful of the fact that United States can be controlling, technically controlling Gaza on ground.
It would be very generous if the Arab world do that, because it is their obligation, and no doubt, and the whole of the world has to do it.
I do not think
but
they'll
why
be able to
why
do
the penalty is not leveled against Israel and the accountability? Why not Israel is going to pay for that? Because Israel is the main contender and actually imposed this devastating genocidal war on the innocent people of Gaza.
I think that the short answer to that would be that this is not how the world works, and the Arabs, their contention over this is that they're not going to rebuild a piece of land which Israel can just demolish again in the coming year or so, whenever it likes. So that is the main contention. That why would they pay for it? So they want to link it with the two-state solution, that if there is a sovereign, independent and contiguous Palestinian state, then they can look
this is the pivotal point, no doubt about that. Hamza, some reports suggest that, as Ali was talking about, that we don't have to speculate. Obviously, we don't have to speculate. But speculations actually came when the Egyptian president visited Spain, and he has some remarks about it. And some of the reports suggest, even from the Egyptian media, and from the European media as well, that it is expected that there would be a $20 billion reconstruction plan before the key Arab leaders in Riyadh, meeting to discuss and have substantial output from the Arab League summit as well. United Nations and the European Union and the World Bank already given that estimate that might be it would be $53.2 billion for the 10 years time. They have given an interim rapid damage and need assessment report as well for the next 10 years. Initially required $20 billion for first 3 years. While alternative to the Trump's plan also includes the forming a national Palestinian committee to govern Gaza without Hamas involvement and international participation in the reconstruction without displacing the Palestinian abroad. So how do you see that although these reports are coming, but what are the expectations?
Well, obviously, the reconstruction of Gaza would require a substantial amount of money because of the amount of destruction that have been caused due to Israeli bombing.
Unfortunately.
And it also depends on what they are actually planning to build up. It is an urban area which can be destroyed again, or is it an urban area where the Palestinians can live peacefully or not? And secondly, it also depends because Trump...
Is it for what Arabs are going to invest?
Oh, I'll explain. Because there is a Trump factor as well, because he is also planning to put his troops on the ground in Gaza. So from that perspective, what I am getting is that he's planning to take over Gaza and build the largest military base or a naval base that can control Middle East and stand side by side to Israel. Apart from that, Egypt came up with the proposal. There are speculations about that they are proposing around $20 billion of investment to rebuild Gaza, to basically counter Trump's takeover. And they will also be presenting that on 4th March in Cairo as well. Moreover,
they don't want to have first the Israel is an illegitimate state, occupier is already at the doorstep. They don't want the United States at the
exactly,
doorstep.
they don't want. That is the reason that they are proposing this. But as you said, that RDNA has talked of around $53 billion. Still, there is a deficit of $30 billion in what Egypt is proposing.
And this is just an estimated.
This
when
is
the
just an
reconstruction
estimate.
starts, God knows better.
God knows better, and God knows how much martyrs more will come out of the debris. Because
Definitely.
you are basically saying
more than
about
14,000 already in rubble.
Yes, then there is finally the Arab leaders, that how they are going to present a united front against Donald Trump plan, because it is going to finally decide that the reconstruction of Gaza will end as a disaster or as a recipe of peace.
Your point well taken. Dr. Saira, during illegitimate state of Israel's imposed war on Gaza, 70% of the buildings destroyed, innocent families are stranded with shelter, children dying due to cold and pneumonia and hypothermia, and stray dogs bites as well. So as a part of ceasefire deal, Israel agreed to allow 60,000 mobile homes and 0.2 million tents inside Gaza. Only tents arrived, not the mobile homes right now. What's the reason behind? Is it the part of ongoing genocidal intent of the occupied regime, or they are just waiting for something?
Definitely, this is of course a deliberate strategy, and this raises critical questions about their long-term intentions. So denying proper shelter to the displaced Palestinians would extend the further suffering of the people. That would of course limit their ability to rebuild, their stability, of course. So, you know, when they allow the tents provide the short-term relief and offer no real protection against the harsh weather and conditions, whereas mobile homes, of course, they would serve as a stepping stone towards a more permanent reconstruction process. So the refusal to allow them, this indicate a calculated and systematic policy of Israel, in which they want to prolong the Palestinian displacement and making it harder for them to recover and to reinforce their dependency on the aid, and possibly pressurizing them into further displacement. By the targeting of the civilians, because this is a target to the civilian population, Israel is using the humanitarian deprivation as a tool of war, which of course is very much aligned with the acts of the genocide. And when they would, further increase their displacement, so that would pave way for what Trump's policy had. He said that that is the demolished area. So they are using it as a pretext to, practically implement their plan. So that would, of course, further authenticate their narrative that they have been building, that they want to help the Palestinians, so they would cleanse out and by increasing their sufferings, of course.
Your point well taken. Ali, what are your thoughts as Hamas signaled its readiness for the second phase of the ceasefire deal and proposed the release of all captives in one go in exchange of the complete end of the Israeli imposed war, lasting truce and complete withdrawal of the Israeli troops from besieged enclave? While rejected any removal of Hamas, disarmament of the resistance or its residents' repatriation from Gaza, and termed it unacceptable, totally unacceptable. Whether Israel and the United States would seriously respond to this proposal, the second phase is expected, as encouraged by Qatar as well, because they are very optimistic on that. Whether Israel resume the ceasefire talks, the second phase, or the war.
Well, looking at the facts, I'm not sure that if the three-phase ceasefire was actually the Israeli intention, and Israel has any intention to implement this ceasefire as a whole, because they have been very reluctant.
Or just to get the captives and soon after.
Yes.
I think that they have just bought time. They've bought time, and their reluctance to engage in the second phase of the ceasefire. Benjamin Netanyahu first sent a very low-level delegation to negotiate on the second phase, which had no decision-making power, and then he has been delaying the delegation for the reasons of reconstituting it by removing the Shin Bet head. And he has been playing all the delaying tactics. So I'm not pretty much sure that they are actually interested in negotiating a second phase of the ceasefire. When we look at Hamas, I think it has proved itself to be a force to be reckoned with. Its fighting capabilities, although destroyed to some extent, and it has been weakened significantly, but there are damages even on the Israeli side. We see they have inflicted significant damages on the Israeli military, IDF as well. So completely putting Hamas outside of a future for Gaza and not letting Hamas to be a part of any arrangement, any political and administrative arrangement for Gaza, that would not be possible. And it has been the insistence of the Americans and the Israelis that they would not accept Hamas into any political arrangement.
As they have insisted to the
I don't
Lebanese
think
government,
Hamas
that they don't
necessarily
want Hezbollah in the cabinet. and all that.
Hamas would not necessarily insist on being the part of a political arrangement. It obviously will be a part of the political arrangement, but it does not necessarily, it has never claimed that it wants to rule Gaza after the war. It wants a political settlement to the issue, what they have laid out. They want a political administrative committee to be formed. And most importantly, they ask for elections, the now democratic ideal of the West. They asked for elections, which were held in 2007. And the United States and Israel did not accept the results.
But unfortunately, all ideals actually shattered in Gaza.
Exactly.
When it comes to the Western democracy or the human rights or anything else, that is not existing right now.
Exactly.
So, Hamza, several reports confirmed that despite of the ceasefire, an Israeli drone strike, killed a Hamas commander, Mohammed Ibrahim Shaheen, in southern Lebanon port city of Sidon. Israel destroyed dozens of homes in the Rafah, south of Gaza, demolished more than 60 buildings in Gaza. Israeli military is again building up its military strength in and around Gaza right now. What it means, either they are serious for the second round of talk or for the ceasefire, or they have the clear intention to come again.
As Ali Hamza has said, they are not serious. Apart from that, they are also testing the patience of Palestinian resistance and Lebanese resistance. And moreover, they are giving a message to Palestinians and Lebanese that despite a ceasefire, despite having peace, we will continue to bomb you. As you can see, that the extension they were provided ended on 18th February. Despite that, they have not withdrawn. And moreover, the IDF has intensified the demolition campaigns,
Unfortunately,
and they are, unfortunately,
yes.
and they and the satellite imagery imagery basically shows that there is a systematic clearance which is ongoing along the Philadelphia corridor.
Yes.
Basically, this is a plan that they are following, and it is related to raising Rafah, which was made back in 2004. As far as the divisions are concerned, they have deployed 3 Markeva tank companies as well, and they are waiting for negotiations to break down, and once it is going to break down, they are going to invade northern Gaza again.
Unfortunately, because the same scenario is there in Lebanon as well, at the 5 points,
Yes.
From where, despite of the last date gone on 26th of January, they are not withdrawing from that. No doubt about that. Dr. Saira, why US Trump administration too swiftly taking lots of devastating decisions against the Palestinians, as after floating, devastating the Riviera Plan, approved military sales of around $7 billion, sent more missiles, bombs and military hardware to Israel, and freezed Palestinian authorities' security forces funding and training, that actually limit the Palestinian authorities' ability to maintain security in the occupied West Bank, and tentatively preparation for a potential role in effective governance of the Gaza Strip as well. US action seems encouraging Israel to end ceasefire and again impose that genocidal war which was going on for 15 months.
Well, this is quite, this is for obvious reasons. We all know that Israel is the strategic ally, had been the strategic ally of the United States of America. So this reflect a broader strategy of United States, which aims to consolidate the Israeli dominance in the region and particularly over the Palestinians. And to systematically ensure their dominance and to systematically weaken all the Palestinians and Palestinian factions like Hamas, so that they should not pose any threat to their strategic ally. So like you have mentioned that the US has approved $7 billion of military aid and supply of additional missiles and bombs and weapons to Israel. And at the same time, simultaneously, they had freezed the funds for the Palestinian Authority. So this shows that US has directly enabled Israel's military actions in the Palestine. So the freezing of funds, particularly of PA's security forces, is particularly significant because it is not only going to reduce their ability to govern Gaza, but it will also affect their ability to rebuild it in the future. And it will further increase the chaos in the Palestine, which is an indirect help to the Israelis for the continuation of their military actions inside the Palestinians. In addition to this, the increasing of the arms sales to Israel at the time when the ceasefire talks or the negotiations were on the table, that raises more concerns about the US actions. It shows that US is not only trying to keep a blind eye towards what Israel's military escalation, but on the other hand, actively encouraging it to escalate it militarily, because if the United States' goal is to promote peace in the region and in the Palestine and between the Palestine and Israel, the US would prioritize diplomatic pressure and humanitarian assistance rather than fueling.
Dr. Saira, your point well taken. Hamza, very quickly, because we have run short of time. So is it the Israeli strategy that soon after truce in Gaza, Israel issued tender for the construction of around 1,000 additional settled homes in occupied West Bank, built more than 100 illegal settlements already, initiated airstrikes and ground operations using sound bombs and toxic gases, killed more than dozens of the Palestinians, arrested hundreds, displaced at least 40,000 from the West Bank alone, and blocks thousands from returning to Jenin camp, while causing widespread destruction to critical infrastructure. Around 500,000 illegal settlers already live in the occupied territory. How do you see this blatant violation of international law, occupation of the West Bank, and most probably, God knows better, might be the annexation in future?
It is basically a deliberate policy of reshaping demography and territorial realities. And it is basically an opportunity for Israel. While the world is focused towards Gaza, they want to reshape West Bank as well. They want to, expel as many Palestinians from West Bank as possible to get hold of more and more territory and settle their settlers and create buffer zones. So Israel is trying to strengthen their Israeli control over strategic targets, strategic areas, and they are basically creating buffer zones around existing settlements. And finally, they want to limit Palestinian population growth and their mobility as well.
So, your point well taken, Ali. Sorry. What do you think that the arrest warrants about the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu by the International Criminal Court, but the US administration soon after now imposed sanctions on the court officials, first the Karim Khan, the prosecutor, and then some economic and funding as well as the travel repercussions for the ICC. Although the ICC President Tomoko Ekane expressed deep regrets over these sanctions, France, Germany, Britain, Netherlands, all of them, even around 80 countries out of 125 who are the member states, expressed the unwavering support to the ICC, for the ICC, when the United States, China, Russia and Israel are not the part of it. And why these sanctions? Because time and again, one after another, Trump is doing everything in favor of Netanyahu or in favor of illegitimate state of Israel.
It is ironic that instead of just implementing the directives of ICC, and actually it is an instrument of international law which was so acclaimed, so celebrated by the United States itself as well, they have been sanctioning the ICC for just going against Israel. And it is very much evident from Trump's maneuvers and his foreign policy that how much he cares about the wishes of his allies. Even the meeting with the Russian counterparts and Saudi Arabia is evident that he does not care about how the world thinks about the conflicts, and he even does not care for international law, which is at least taken at a face value for other United States allies. So he has enacted these sanctions against ICC, and he'll go to every extent to support Israel, I think. And he has been very firm in touting Israel as the most important state for United States and flouting international law, completely disregarding its requirements. He has a very transactional foreign policy approach, and obviously international law cannot be factored in a very transactional approach.
Very right.
It
very
seems
right.
inappropriate
very
to
right.
factor it in.
Thank you very much, Ali, for being with us here in the studios. Thank you very much, Hamza, for your presence. And thank you very much, Dr. Saira, for your candid views. Very elaborated. Thank you. So nice of you. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, it is the threat which already posed by the United States and the illegitimate state of Israel in the form of the Riviera Plan, but it is not the policy. Even it is in illusion when it comes to the UN Senate or Congress, as the Senator Lindsey Graham's statement is very important in that, because he is one of the senior member of right now ruling party. It's already rejected by the Arab states, United Nations, and whole of the world. US is actually reluctant to invest in Gaza reconstruction, but that's why spinning right now the different options, but these are not the policy. But ultimately, the alternative plan is very important. Arab states have to decide once for all that what would be the future of the innocent Palestinians, about the Palestinian statehood. That is necessary, not only we are talking about Gaza and West Bank, but also the Jerusalem and all other occupied territories under the Israeli rule right now, that is illegitimate, that is must have to be prior the borders before 1967, what Pakistan is propagating time and again. And obviously, the second phase of the ceasefire is also very important. Qatar is very optimistic. Negotiations would be there, but whether the intentions are there by the Israel or not, that is the main question. And Israel, time and again, trying to sabotage these ceasefire, this ceasefire or the truce or these negotiations, because through its actions, because Israel is time and again violating these ceasefire, even the first phase. But the Arab summit in Riyadh, then of course the Arab League, very important summit in Cairo on 27th or 24th, whatever it will be, but that Arab League summit, and then the OIC Council of Foreign Ministers meeting on 7th of March. That is very important. So now the Muslim countries, particularly the Arab nations, must have to decide once for all. That is very important, that what would be the ultimate future of the Palestinian statehood. And Palestinians have every right to have their independent and sovereign state. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz Nasir.